Good morning, Morning Musings by Melinda. Monday Morning Musings by Melinda. I hope that you had a fabulous weekend and are looking forward to having a prosperous and healthy and successful week. I want to talk to you today about tolerance. A friend of mine, Michael Fishman, said he hates the word tolerance or to tolerate because to him it feels like, oh, you're tolerating a headache or you're tolerating something bad, and it's something that you just have to like excruciatingly get through and all of those kinds of things. And I thought, well, that's interesting because tolerance is a very interesting word. Of course, in our English language, there are a lot of words that have double meanings to them, right? And so I thought, well, wouldn't that be a great musing to talk about tolerance, especially because last week we put up a post about, trying to honor each other's differences. And someone wrote to me and said, well, I'm not honoring somebody that's a racist, and I'm not honoring somebody that's misogynist. And I have to say that I agreed with her, that that's a different category altogether than some of what's happening with the way that we think differently in today's country. So I thought, well, let's take a look at tolerance, what it means, and how we can work with that word in a way in which we can, again, in a spiritual place, find collaboration and connection. Remember, Christianity does not mean judgment. Jesus talked about giving to the poor all the time. Why are we, taking such a strong stance on, our Christianity, which I am as well, and turning it into something where we're in such, judgment and lack of tolerating other people and their belief systems? I think that, Jesus said to love thy neighbor as thyself. So I do agree that we can't tolerate social injustices and a world that has with it, inappropriate behavior with misogynistic energy and or racial tension or energy. But if you want to be met with hate and ignorance, this is from an article that I took, 5 Ways to Practice Tolerance. Sometimes the simplest way is to find what's on social media and how we consume things every day. So let's talk about energy for just a second here. So energy frequencies, things that happen when we're kids, for example, and we come into this world with no judgment and with an open mind, so to speak, because there's nothing that we're coming into this world with. And someone in our life continues to bombard us with inappropriate or ignorant or information that isn't accurate, then we will grow up to believe that, right? And so now in today's world with social media and all this, these issues that are put on social media, we are starting to bombard our brains with that information, and some of it may not be true because, our subconscious minds are like a sponge. It's called collective consciousness, where in collective consciousness we have a vibrational frequency that happens and that we are, sending inappropriate information to each other to create division. And so we are not in tolerance at all. So, tolerance is the willingness and the ability to be with, in spite of differences or aversion, a person, and to try to accept and embrace that which we don't understand. So, again, was Martin Luther King someone that stood for a lack of, it stood for working through lack of tolerance? Yes. But did he do it peacefully? Yes. And did he create more tolerance? Yes. Did he create less tolerance? Yes. I mean, we have all this energy that has duality around it, right? Positive and negative. But what this means is the visceral hate that we have for each other, that deep hatred that makes us be inappropriate with the other person, is not being in tolerance. Like, open your mind and listen. I'm not saying that you should agree, but at least remain in a place or a stance of neutrality, which is what forgiveness is, that allows another person their own belief system. We're, again, taking out this idea that we're tolerating, murders and theft and home invasions. And, I'm not saying tolerate Charlie Manson. I want you to understand that I'm talking about meeting in the middle in some form or fashion that allows for us to be spiritual in our ability to tolerate. It means to remain in a situation assuming that it's safe. That it challenges us in some form or fashion so that we can hold space in our own belief system and hold space for others without being mean to each other. It takes courage to do that. It takes courage to look critically at yourself. So I have a girlfriend, and she means a great deal to me. I love her very much. And she and I are on totally different pages politically and with certain issues. And yet we are able to talk about them without us being nasty to each other and still respecting each other and honoring each other and, listening to each other and that belief. Now, I choose not to put whatever my belief system is in that regard, politically and or otherwise, out on Facebook. Some people do that, right? And then other people jump on that bandwagon, and it just gets into a place of craziness. I did that once with Juicy, and I regretted it. So, what is the gift of tolerance? It allows us to open the door to inclusive conversation. That is my point here. It allows our hearts to authentic connections in our differences. Again, we're not talking about racial intolerance or misogyny here, but there are 5 steps to cultivating a tolerant practice. 1 is reflection and response. Should you feel called to practice more tolerance for yourself and for others, then these are the 5 steps. The first step is to recognize that tolerance first originates within oneself. Are there things about yourself that you need to have tolerance for? Not to tolerate like a toothache or a headache, but to have tolerance, to have allowance, to have forgiveness, to have neutrality, to give yourself a break, to be in a state of forgiveness. Forgiveness being the ultimate connection to the Holy Spirit. That is the ultimate connection to your higher power, is in the forgiveness zone. Take time to reflect on your own personal history. Look at how you learned to be intolerant in certain ways. What were the messages that you got from your parents, from your mother, from your father, from your teachers, from the time of history that you were born? My generation may have a different level of understanding than a generation underneath us and a generation above us. Try to respond to people rather than react. Perhaps you need to listen to someone, maybe learn something new. Number 2 is to empathize. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Accept that other people are going to be different than you without trying to convince them otherwise, especially with information that is not accurate information or has not been proven to be accurate. Have a different perspective. Remind yourself that no human is perfect. When someone is rubbing you the wrong way, ask yourself what makes you the authority on perfection. Embrace people with love and compassion. And once you do, you'll see that you have the better ability to be in a deeper, connecting, spiritual essence. Because again, if we are using Christian values, then we must use those Christian values. You cannot talk about forgiveness and love and compassion and love of neighbor and, work within the confines of that level of vibratory frequency and not practice that. So that's what I want to say today. I don't know if I put that together well. I did it in my mind, but so let's be more tolerant, not about the things that are graphically inappropriate. And I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that maybe we just need to move a little bit into a more spiritual direction so that we can love each other in a different vibration so that we can make movement. I'll just say this. During World War II, there was a lot of things that people had to tolerate in order to get through the war, right? I wasn't alive during World War II, but we all know the history there. There were all kinds of things that had to be tolerated in this country in order to keep the war effort and to move forward. There were different restrictions on different things that we had to do, right? Remember that? Well, what if, just food for thought, the pandemic is World War III? Maybe we're looking at it like it's a different thing than it really is. Maybe this is World War III and that we have to tolerate some of the necessary steps that we need to take in order to win this war too. Just food for thought. I hope you have a great day.